This weekend, I got to see Toy Story 5 in theaters. So, does this movie belong in the incinerator from Toy Story 3? Or is it a classic just like the first one? Grab your popcorn and let's dive into my thoughts on Toy Story 5. For some background, I actually enjoyed Toy Story 4. A lot of people took issue with the film, and fundamentally, I think Toy Story 4 is a little bit of a misdirection for the franchise because it's focusing on Woody and his kind of epilogue to the story. I think they did a good job with Woody's epilogue, and they definitely made a good film, but as far as the franchise is concerned, it does not continue the themes from the first three films as far as belonging and the human characters. Bonnie isn't really in the film that much. It's more about Woody's adventure to find his belonging and not necessarily involving a human kid. So in this film, we kind of get a return to form where we really see Bonnie involved. Like, Bonnie has a character arc, and we get the themes of toys wanting to be played with by their kid once again. So let's dive into the plot of this film, and I'll talk about all of those aspects individually. So this film has three separate plots, and because it has three different plots, it feels a little scattershot and hard to tell where the actual focus of the film is. And the first plot is the one that's advertised in the trailers, where Bonnie's home is invaded by this tech lily pad, and the toys have to figure out how to free Bonnie from the enslavement of tech. That plot goes on, and then there's another plot that involves Jessie, and Jessie's kind of finding her purpose, which I'll touch on a lot more in the characters section of this review. And then the third plot point is this side plot involving a bunch of Buzz Lightyear toys that basically come alive, and we redo the whole thing from Toy Story 1, where Buzz Lightyear's coming out of his box and he doesn't think he's a toy. So there are three different areas that this film kind of revolves around, and I will say that the Jessie and the tech plot are a lot more compelling and engaging to me than the Buzz Lightyear plot. Every time they cut to it, I was like, really, where are we going with this? It kind of feels like, especially in the first half of the film, there is no direction that they're going with this, and this is just there to be entertaining. And it is entertaining. It's funny every single time. The Buzz Lightyears are absolutely hilarious. Some of my favorite moments from the film come from one Buzz Lightyear toy or another. And the main Buzz Lightyear is also kind of doing his own thing, which we'll touch on in the character section, that is also really funny. So Buzz Lightyear, whether it's the main character of Buzz or the several side Buzzes that show up, are very entertaining in this film. But the first half of this film, I'm kind of like, why are we cutting to these Buzz Lightyears? This feels a little out of place. Now, they do find a really nice way to bring everything together in the third act, where the Buzz Lightyears actually have a purpose, which kind of made that plot point a lot more bearable to me. In the beginning of this film, I was just like, why are we doing this? So it feels very scattershot. That's one of my problems with the plot of this film. The plot that involves Jessie, they bring Jessie to the front as a main character, and that really brings something new to this film that we haven't seen in Toy Story before, and I really appreciated that now we get the extra side motivation for Jessie. Toy Story 2 is my least favorite Toy Story film, and this film actually makes Toy Story 2 better because it gives Jessie a lot more character development in this film, so that when you see her in Toy Story 2, you can understand what's going on. Or if you watch Toy Story 2, this film has a lot of callbacks to Toy Story 2 as far as what Jessie is experiencing in both this film and Toy Story 2. So they both kind of enhance each other by existing side by side, even though I still think Toy Story 2 is going to be my least favorite film in the franchise, and I've got my Pixar rankings coming up that you can check out right here whenever I get that video out. Another thing about the plot is this film has a way to find a very nuanced meaning about tech. I said in my initial review that I wish they would have dove into this plot even more, and I still hold by it, that this plot is kind of sidelined to Jessie's main story and Jessie's character arc. And Jessie's character arc is great. I'm glad that they developed that, but I really wish we could have seen more tech inputs in the world other than just a few scenes in the story. And if they had developed the tech plotline, I think I would have enjoyed this movie even more than I already do, because I feel like it's a little undercooked. The way that Lilypad is developed as a villain is a little undercooked, so that when you actually get the payoff to this plot, it doesn't feel as satisfying. And I really liked how they tackled the issue of tech. It's all about how you use it. The technology in this film isn't directly villainous. Lilypad is not a villainous character. She's just trying to do what she believes is best for Bonnie, which tends to be through villainous means. And eventually we get some payoff to that at the end of the film. And the film portrays tech as it can be useful in children's development, or it can be incredibly harmful. As someone who grew up using technology, there are a lot of pieces of technology that I would not have had as great of connection with my friends if I had not had access to Discord, for example. My friends and I really bonded over Discord, and that's still why we're super close today, is that we're able to call on Discord despite living in completely different areas of the country, and being able to hang out and talk and be friends. So that, in that way, technology has strengthened my friendships in my life, but I also understand how harmful it can be if used incorrectly. And this movie does a really good job at tackling that issue. The last thing I'll say about this plot is that it really feels like in the first act that it was written specifically for trailers. All of the moments from the trailers come from the first act of the film, and they're very early on. And the problem with that is that some of the dialogue in the first act of the film and the plot conveniences are very corny and explicitly worded to try and be marketing schemes to get people to see the movie. So the dialogue feels a little bit choppy in the first act, where a character has to say something that's like, oh, let's get people back to the theaters if I put this in the trailer. But once you get past all the clips from the trailer, the writing gets a lot better and it feels a lot smoother and more emotional. The emotional beats in the story really hit. Honestly, it's probably the second most emotional Toy Story film for me after Toy Story 3, and I really love emotional films by Pixar. I almost cried a few times in this film. Of course, I would never cry in a theater, but I did almost cry a couple times, and it is really emotional. So overall, the plot has a few problems. It's got some choppy dialogue. The Buzz Lightyear storyline didn't exactly resonate with me, and it is very scattershot. There's very much a lot of things happening in this film, so I'm gonna have to give the plot a 4 stars overall. On the character side, this film has really strong character work. I had 2 problems with the characters, however. One is there's a side character who is literally just a poop joke, like the whole film. His toy, or he's an electronically powered, so Jessie calls him the device, is a potty trainer for toddlers. So those are the only jokes that he can make, and I didn't really find him endearing at all. I just was annoyed by him the entire film whenever he was in it. The second issue I have with the characters is this film focuses on 3 characters in particular: Bonnie, Jessie, and Buzz. And Toy Story films have always been ensemble films where they have every single character have something meaningful to do. And you have characters in this film like Mr. Potato Head who do absolutely nothing. And you have characters like Slinky who do very minimal. Rex is barely in it. So all of these characters that you have grown to love from the previous Toy Story films, because they all had their moment to shine, do basically nothing. And there's also cameos from Duke Kaboom and Bo Peep, who also do basically nothing. So you're just kind of putting these characters in because they have to be in a Toy Story film and not giving them anything meaningful to do. However, on the flip side, the character work done for the 3 main characters, Bonnie, Jessie, and Buzz, and the villain Lilypad, is done really, really well. So Jessie's arc is the strongest in this film, and her arc is just so emotional because it calls back to Toy Story 2. It talks about her sense of belonging. She's a character who's been passed on constantly, from Emily to the Prospector Pete's shed in Toy Story 2 with, I can't remember the guy's name right now, but the fat guy with the Cheetos who is kind of housing her to be sent off to the museum, and then she's passed on to Andy, and then she's passed on to Bonnie, and now she's the main character from Bonnie, but she's at risk of being passed on again, so she has really questioned her purpose. She doesn't know where she's going in life, and she has a lot of really emotional moments because she's brought back to the place that started it all, and that is really emotional and made me tear up a couple times in the end of the film. The second character I liked was Buzz. Buzz had a really fun character arc. He's doing something unexpected and funny. He's making a lot of jokes that you always laugh at. But more importantly, he's learning how to develop into the leader that Woody was, where he has to lead the toys into a plan of action in several moments in the film. Once Jessie's gone, he's the only one there, so he's leading the chase to help Bonnie against Tech. He leads the army of Buzz Lightyears later in the film. He kind of takes over the role for what Woody does. And Woody is in this film to kind of support Buzz, and he does a really good job at being a supporting character because it doesn't take away from the ending of Toy Story 4 as Woody's send-off, or the ending of Toy Story 3 as Woody's send-off, because everything that Woody does in this film is a supporting role. He doesn't actually have any chance to steal the spotlight from the other toys. He's already retired, and he still has that kind of retired role in this film, and he does a really good job at that. And so I felt like this film didn't take away from the ending of either Toy Story 4 or Toy Story 3, and I thought that was really important because what are you going to do when you bring back Woody? That was a concern of mine. I think they handled him really well in this film. The last character, of course, we gotta talk about is Bonnie and Lily Pad's arc. They're kind of intertwined, where Lily Pad is trying to do the best thing possible for Bonnie, and it's a villain of the film per se with positive motivation, so it's really hard to root against this villain. And they do something in the end of the film where Lily Pad totally changes character, and it makes sense for what they're trying to do. And it goes back to the message that I was talking about in the plot section of how they're trying to portray Tech, where Tech can be good or bad depending on how it's used. And I think that's done really well through Lily Pad's character and through what Bonnie goes through in this film. And it's just a really great arc overall. The character work in this film is really good. Again, I had some minor nitpicky problems that I started out this section with, but overall, it's great character work, so I'm gonna have to go 4 stars once again. Could get a 5 stars if I didn't have some of the problems with the characters that I mentioned earlier. For the pacing of this film, there wasn't really anything that stood out to me. It's honestly a perfectly acceptable paced film. It is an hour and 42 minutes long, which is a pretty normal length for an animated film. It does what it needs to get done in a timely manner. You never feel like it's rushed or slow. The only critique I will have is simply the cutting to the Buzz Lightyear subplot is a little bit odd, and I've already mentioned that in this review, so it feels like when they cut to it, it kind of inhibits the pacing of the film being natural, and this plot is paced differently than the other 2 plots that are going on. But that would be really my only critique of the pacing in this film. So for me, pacing is going to get a 4 stars, just like everything else so far, because this film is really good. It's really solid. For the visuals in this film, they are just classic Pixar visuals, always top-notch. Pixar just knows how to animate a film and does it in a way that just makes the film look great. Now, something that stands out about this film is they switch up the animation style during the film to depict playtime or playing with toys, and that way you can really tell like when something is happening in the real world versus when something is in the child's mind that is playing with the toys. And that is a really nice touch, I thought. The visuals during the playtime are really fun. It's almost like Paper Mario type style, I guess is the best way I can describe it. It's very 2D-ish animation switched over from 3D, or like if you're more of a movie person and don't understand that reference, then like Puss in Boots: The Last Wish has very similar animation style when it switches over to like the cell tracing that they use in the middle of the film when there's like an action scene, or Spider-Verse also has that same animation style, and it's becoming more and more popular after the success of those two films, but I enjoy it every time it's used, this kind of animation style that changes up from the traditional 3D animation, and the visuals really stick out to me in those parts. There's also some unique scenes in this film where most of Toy Story films take place on a house or with a child or in a rural or urban environment. Because the Buzz Lightyears get woken up on like a remote desert island, they have like some really nice outdoor scenery in this film also. Like the Buzz Lightyears, they're on a remote island, they go through this city construction site and they have a really fun scene in there, and then they also end up in the woods with some family while they're camping, which is also really fun. So there's a nice change of scenery in this film that adds to the visuals. So overall, because of everything I've said in this section of the review, I have to give the visuals a 5 stars in this film. Pixar really doesn't get below 5 stars because they've never missed with any of their visuals in any of their films. So I've only seen this film once, so it's a little bit hard for me to rate the entertainment value because I had a really poor theater experience. I saw it on Thursday, the 18th of June, which meant the next day is a federal holiday in the US, which means that all of the parents and all of the kids don't have school, they don't have work the next day. So I had a bunch of 5-year-olds in my theater screaming at every moment who had never seen the original Toy Story or any of the other Toy Story films or any of the references that it's trying to make in this film, because their parents dragged them to the theater and they would scream and say things in the middle of the movie, and these parents just could not get their kids under control. So it was incredibly frustrating. By the time the third act rolled around in the film, I probably had about a quarter of the theater left because so many parents had to pick up their kids and carry them out of the theater because they were making too much noise. And that really frustrated me, so it's a little hard for me to rate the entertainment value of this film, but in general, I really enjoyed this film. It is funny throughout. Buzz Lightyear has a lot of references to Star Wars, which is my favorite franchise of all time. The whole character of Buzz Lightyear is a reference to Star Wars. Of course, Zurg is Darth Vader. Buzz Lightyear is a Luke Skywalker type character. So all of that is referencing Star Wars, and Buzz says a lot of lines in this film that are directly referencing either the original trilogy of Star Wars or the prequel trilogy, and it's just really fun. The movie is really funny, like I said earlier, so this is a very entertaining film. There were things that drew me out of the film that's going to drop my score here a little bit. I've talked about them extensively in this review. The poop character I was not a fan of. The Buzz Lightyear subplot confused me a little bit. The first act had very poor writing and dialogue choices. So all of that is going to drop the score a little bit here, and I'm going to have to go with a 4.5 out of 5 stars overall. Overall, this film is another banger for Pixar. It's another great addition to the Toy Story franchise. I don't know where I'm going to put it yet on my Pixar rankings. I'm going to figure that out as soon as I'm done editing this video. But I really enjoyed this film. It's a great time. Go see it in theaters. It's so much better than some of the other Pixar films that have come out recently. It's definitely one of the best movies of this year so far. I had a great time with it, and I'll always love the Toy Story franchise. It just barely averages out to 4.5 stars overall, and for me, I'm gonna give it an 8.5 out of 10 personally, and go see this in theaters. It's a great time. Remember, keep watching media so I can keep covering it.